All right, so I ran a marathon without training for it, and I want to talk about the number one thing I took away from it when I ran the marathon. Now, I'm just going to jump straight into it. I'm not going to talk about the whole story I had for the whole experience. It would be too long of a video, but I did want to share the number one takeaway I got from the marathon. And I did this with zero training. So I was running before it, but not for the marathon. I just started picking up that habit of running before the New Year's. And then January 1st came around. I only ran for a week or week and a half, mind you, before this happened. January 1st came around. I got sick as balls. I couldn't run for 5 days. I wasn't sick anymore, but during that time I was sick. I believe I've already finished Can't Hurt Me December 31st, 2019. And I watched a shit ton of his podcasts while I was sick. And after I read his book, watched his podcast literally, like the one on Tom Bilyeu 10 times at the time, maybe 5 times of the first interview he had, and like maybe the Joe Rogan podcast once or twice of each. So I heard and watched his story so many times. And that's a great book. And I do want to talk about my biggest takeaways from the book in a future video. But he pretty much ran 100 miles without training for it, and he broke his feet by mile 70, and he had 30 miles to go. He walked the last 10. He wasn't on track to make it within the 24-hour deadline he had, so he had to run the last 19 miles. And he said at the end of the race he found himself, and I wanted that. I wanted to taste it because read the book and you'll understand. I want to make a follow-up video, in fact, for this video to go into it. But one of the reasons I went into the marathon without training for it was to find myself. So let me backtrack. January 1st, got sick. 5 days didn't run. Within that time span, I found a marathon because I was inspired from the fucking book to run a marathon. And there was one in 2 or 3 weeks, January 19th. And I was like, well, shit, I already haven't ran, so I might as well not train at all and run this marathon. When I said it, I didn't believe it, but as time kept coming closer, I was 2 weeks away, a week away, 3 days away, 2 days away, even the day before. No, 2 days before, it didn't click in my mind. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to run this marathon. So I went the day of. It still hasn't clicked in my mind. I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna run a marathon. I'm just gonna do it. I'm not gonna think about it. And I believe I woke up 3:30 that day. Got 2 hours of sleep. I was really excited. Got in the car, hour and a half drive. And I get there, and I'm at the starting line. And I'm not gonna share the whole story, but pretty much I was scared yet excited, because I've never run more than 6 miles at one time in my life. And that was, I shit you not, years ago. Maybe when I was in the Army or before that. So it's been a minute since I've even ran long distances. The longest I ran before that was 3 miles. And that was hard as heck, in December. So 26 miles, point 2. So mile 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Actually, I'm going to stop at 6. It was all good. I was like, damn, you know what? Running isn't too bad. This is something I could do for fun. This is fun. Mile 7, my legs start to hurt. I believe I used the restroom. Got to take a shit, come out. Excuse MIA, I know. Or is it TMI? TMI, I know, not missing in action, but too much information, TMI. And I go to 8, mile 9, mile 10, my legs are starting to hurt more, but it's like, yeah, I'm doing good. I'm on a good track. I'm like headed towards a 4-hour finish time. I was still like before the 4-hour pacer guy. There's a guy with the 4-hour symbol here, and he's a pacer for the people that want to run at the 4-hour mark. I believe at the 11th mile, the 4:30 passed me. Or the 12th mile, and by the time I reached the 13th mile, I was on track to hit 4 hours and 30 minutes, maybe 4 hours and 45 minutes, but I ran the half marathon in 1 hour, 50 minutes, or 2 hours. So I was doing pretty good. So at 13 miles, it started to hurt to run. Like my Achilles started to hurt, my knee was starting to hurt. So like I had to walk, and my feet was, mind you, I have no music. I'm wearing basketball shoes, zero training, basketball shoes, no music. And I did no music because he ran with no music. So I'm like, I'm gonna follow this fucking guy to the T. So, mile 14 comes up. I'm walking a lot more, starting to run a bit. I was pacing some other dude, running really slow. I remember he had the number 1010. And I was just like, as long as I can stay with this guy, I'm gonna be okay. I kept up with him until mile 15 and a half. Now, at mile 15 and a half, the entire time throughout the race, I don't know, out of old days, I guess I had to use the restroom like a lot. I probably used it 5, 10 times, I don't know, a lot. But this is the last time I was in there, like probably for 10 to 20 minutes, I don't know. Because there was just so much in me. And the guy, he passed me, and when I initially got in the stall, it's like once I sat down and I relaxed, my body relaxed, I had to let go of whatever I was holding on to, and I stepped out of the bathroom or the stall. Or even before that, I knew it sitting down. I was just like, fuck. I have 10 and a half more miles to go. And I remember getting out of the stall, I could barely walk. I was limping, my feet was cramped up. And in that moment, I was just, a bombard of insecurities hit me. They were hitting me around mile 8, by the way, but not as much as right there. And the last 10 miles of that race, man, I think I walked 4.5 miles after that, or 5.5, 4.5 until the 20-mile mark. I ran a bit, but not that much because I could hardly walk. But everything, this is the key lesson I got away from it. I was moving throughout my life prior to that. I'm sure to an extent I am now. 100% I am now. Through the mechanism in my brain that keeps me safe and had all these insecurities bottled up. And in the book Can't Hurt Me, he says, at least in Hell Week and during tough times, your brain is going to throw everything, your mind's going to throw everything at you to tell you to stop. All your insecurities are going to come up. I didn't understand that until this marathon. Literally shit I didn't even know was a thing started coming up. And it's like, oh my God, I actually do feel that way. I just put it under so many layers that I never questioned it. And I probably just unconsciously accepted it. I 100% did accept it at some point. I just kept it. And there was so many insecurities in it. And like, I wanted to cry. I was like, I can't do this shit. At mile 15, I was like, dude, you haven't even ran more than 6 miles, 15 miles. That's a great accomplishment. You can stop right now. And I don't know why, but I kept going. But in the back of my mind, I was like hoping, like, oh my God, I hope I'm going so slow that they send someone to pick me up, like in the back of my head. Unfortunately, I was about to say unfortunately, but fortunately, that didn't happen because I learned a lot through that race. Luckily, one of the medics, gave me some salt at mile 16 and a half, 17, 18. And 20 minutes later, I started feeling better. I think it was the salt. I was dehydrated. My feet were cramped up. I was in basketball shoes. My knee was starting to hurt. My hip flexors, out of all things, I didn't expect. If you don't know what the hip flexors are, it's like the muscles right here. They started to hurt because they weren't used to lifting my legs so much. And they felt like they were on fire. Luckily, my feet didn't break. So I know I didn't even hit 100%, which scares me. But goddamn, that was hard. I'm just going to finish the story. I ran there 20 miles. I ran and walked like I did from mile 13 to 16 or 15 and a half. And yeah, finished the race in 6 hours, 36 minutes. I wish I got it in 4, but my body, that's an excuse. Eventually I will be with no training, just with mental, with armor plating my mind, how David Goggins says, or callousing my mind. I'm sure like physically I'm capable of even running a Boston qualifying time, but it takes a toll on your body and you have to be mentally strong. You have to be mentally strong to run a marathon in the fucking first place. But after reading David Goggins' book and seeing that a man can run 100 miles with no training at all. At least cardio wise, he was lifting weights. Blows my mind. And that someone can push themselves beyond what they think is even conceivable. You can do this in any aspect of life. It's just, I feel like with physical exercise, physical movement, it's so pure and so you can observe it. This man had broken feet and ran 30 miles or went through 30 miles. Like you cramping up, you can push through your cramps. You really can. Your body, once you connect the mind and the body, you can do anything. But your body and your mind, and he says this as well, the mind has a tactical advantage over you at all times. Meaning it's going to use all your insecurities over you. It's going to use all your fears, especially in the beginning. So like, you know, that initial resistance you feel when you're about to do something, that's your fucking mind. Because it wants to stay comfortable. And you don't know it, but it's filtering everything through these insecurities that you don't know. But they'll only arise when you're in such a state of discomfort, when everything is telling you to stop. When you're saying consciously, no, I'm not going to stop. It's like, all right, this motherfucker needs to get convinced with his insecurities to stop, you know? I don't know if that made any sense, and I can't prove that. That's like my little theory behind it, but yeah. Number one lesson. I wouldn't even say lesson. Just the number one thing I took away is that I was perceiving my life, filtering life, as a matter of fact, filtering life through these insecurities and deep secrets. And I would say secrets I kept with myself and didn't share with many people because, you know, not proud of certain things or thoughts I've had. Weird stuff. And once they arise, it's like who I was made sense. Because I looked at who I was before and how the fuck David used to act. And that version of me was still here. And that person can exist. So at least if I want to transform into something greater, grander identity, grander individual. And the other day I did meditation. I want to talk about so much, but meditated yesterday. And I found an even deeper root to my identity that I didn't think was existent. I did one of Joe Dispenza's meditations. This was the first time I did a meditation and felt like I was on ecstasy, dude. A little amazing. I'll make a video on it. Maybe. I don't know. But as time goes on, especially after that race, things that I didn't know or refuse to know or learn about myself are starting to come up. And it feels like I'm really rewiring my brain and unpruning old synaptic connections in my brain. And I'm literally pruning away who I used to be, forgetting who I am. And now I'm starting to create that real estate in my mind and energy to create a new mind, a new me. So it's really exciting stuff. I can't wait to share the journey. It's been a while since I filmed, maybe a week or two, but I made another video, and I hope you guys took away something from this. And I'm not encouraging everyone to run a marathon. It's crazy. It's stupid. If you're like, you know, I'm not fat or anything. So, hey, if you're in like decent shape, you can walk and not breathe heavy, then I'd recommend it. Why not? And I wouldn't recommend it. Don't do it. That's a bad idea. Take that out of your mind. But do something physically or mentally challenging beyond what you think is conceivable. And learn more about yourself, because it's in those dark moments when you're wanting to stop but choose not to stop, that's when your mind's going to throw the deep subconscious things that you've kept from yourself for years, and that's when you'll learn who you really are deep down inside. Crazy stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, or hope you enjoyed the video. Namaste, and I'll see you next time.